Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Prosper Nutrition Show, where we want you to prosper and be in health. My name is Jason Steves. I'm a clinical account specialist with Perk Integrative Health, and I'm joined by my co-host Steve Steves, who is a certified clinical nutritionist. Whoa, hang on a second here. Oh, joined by my co-host Steve Steves. He is a certified clinical nutritionist, and naturopath. He has been seeing people clinically at the Nutrition and Health Center for 30 years. Steve, good morning. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Jason. Just landed back in Houston. Saw a lot of metabolic syndrome, but there's a lot more of it here in Houston than there was in Cincinnati. So I'm excited to talk about the topic
Yeah.
and just excited. I'm sucking on my vitamin C and some
There
cell
you go.
energy. The first thing I got when I got home. Not that I didn't take it with me. That's something to talk about, but I want to tell
Yeah.
people. That's good to talk about. We might mention that today about what people need to do when they travel.
Right. Yeah, that's a good topic for sure.
Because
Today, we're
that,
going to be talking about nutrition tips for preventing metabolic syndrome. And I think the first thing we need to really get a grasp on is what is metabolic syndrome? This is something that I think people are hearing a little bit about, but, they may not be too familiar with what it is. But I think they're very familiar with the things that are associated with metabolic syndrome that kind of lead to metabolic syndrome. So, do you mind sharing with us a little bit of, I guess, a simple definition of metabolic syndrome and what it is?
well, if you could pull up that metabolic disease chart
Yeah.
while we do that, would be
Yep. Here it
great.
is. It's up.
Yeah. So the chart looks a little complicated and it's got some scientific information in there, but you start in the center of the chart right below the title and you see two different types of lifestyles.
Mm.
And while we were on this trip, Jason, we could have succumbed to the lifestyle on the left, the burgers and fries and the sundaes and shakes. But we went to the grocery store, we bought our own food, and we went to restaurants and chose wisely. One night, I was really surprised at this grill I went to. I had a piece of fish and some rice and asparagus. No, broccoli. Their broccoli was amazing. So you can eat healthy when you travel, but it's a little bit more work, but your health is worth it. You don't want to feel bad when you travel. Most people end up getting sick when they come back, and they just contribute more to metabolic disease. So the lifestyle on the left is contributing to all these changing factors in our metabolism.
Mm.
And the chart goes into the details of it, and we can get this out to you. But you can see the individual on the left that's created metabolic disease. And this leads on to high risk for cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and other autoimmune conditions.
Mm.
So we can reverse all that. We can stop that and prevent it. Or if you're headed in that direction, one of the ways you'll know that, of course, as you see in the picture, is an increase in belly fat, visceral fat. Now, they do have measurement readings. They say men that have a waist circumference more than 40 inches. That's one
Okay.
of the markers of the five markers. But
Okay.
if a guy like me, who only has normally a 29-inch waist, was to get to 40 inches on this little frame, that would just be ballistic, right? But other guys that are mesomorphs that have real large bone structure, for them, it's a lot easier to reach 40 inches around the waist. But that's so we measure visceral fat on the in-body device at the
Mm.
office.
So
And
it's kind of in
according,
in relation to their body structure. So if there's a big person,
right,
that their waist maybe in relation to their hips or their shoulders is probably something to
exactly.
consider. Okay.
And then, of course, overall body fat, but that's not an actual marker. Only visceral fat is the amount of belly fat size. Another
Got it.
marker is low levels of HDL. And they're saying for men, if you get below 35 and women, if you get below 40, well, that's really low. And you need your HDL to kind of clean up your arteries and veins and prevent plaquing. And now HDL stands for high density lipoprotein. So we know it's high in protein, and low in fat combination. We need protein in our diet. Most people that have low HDL and higher LDL, the low density lipoproteins, they typically eat more fat in their diet and not enough protein. The liver processes all this. In fact, if you don't eat any cholesterol in a food, in animal products, your liver will produce 1800 milligrams. So the body uses cholesterol to produce hormones. We'll get into some more of that as we go into the rest of the month on metabolic syndrome. But so that's the second marker, HDL being high or being low. A third marker is high blood pressure. Now they're saying 130 being the top limit, and then on the systolic, the upper number on your blood pressure check, and then the lower number, the diastolic, if it gets above 80. So those are
Okay.
some good parameters. It's interesting that those are more restrictive than the HDL parameters or the belly fat, but
Mm-hmm.
they're tightening things up, I guess, on the definition of a syndrome.
Yeah.
So high blood pressure is easily contain or it happens easily with nervous system issues. People don't have enough, or they don't get enough sleep. They're low
Okay.
in tryptophan,
Right.
things like that.
So,
So
so those three so far, you talk about the visceral fat, elevated cholesterol, specifically lower HDL, and then high blood pressure. Are there other, what are the other, is there
yeah,
a blood
one
sugar
other
marker?
glucose and triglycerides. So glucose is,
Okay.
of course, your blood sugar,
Okay. So it would be
and
elevated glucose?
elevated glucose. Now they're saying, uh, uh, this is from memory, folks. I'm shooting from the hip on that, but if you look on the research, I think if it
Is it over
gets,
100, right?
it's over 100, yeah,
Okay.
starting to get into metabolic syndrome. And then the triglycerides, if it's over 130. Well, we like to see triglycerides around below 115 and blood glucose in the 80s, the high 70s, low 80s.
So you said, I'm sorry, I missed that with the triglycerides.
Triglycerides, 130 is the high limitation. We like to see it below 115, but the
Okay.
parameters for metabolic syndrome, if it's 130 or above. So triglycerides are the breakdown of, all the carbs in the diet, the processed sugars, the grains and so forth that you
Okay.
saw in that diet
Now,
up
with the
above.
glucose, isn't hemoglobin A1C? What I've learned is that's a good measurement because it kind of averages over 3 months. Is the number, I'm trying to remember this correctly. You probably know. Is it 5 or lower on the hemoglobin A1C? Is that correct?
Yeah, there's charts that you can look at the correlation of what the average glucose is at that range. I think a 5.0
Mm-hmm.
is like blood sugars in the 80s on a regular continual basis.
Okay. Okay.
But the first morning fasting is easier for people. Well, this is an easy test. All you do is do a finger prick
The
or a
glucose?
blood draw, and hemoglobin A1C
Oh,
is,
okay.
is more accurate because you can know what's happened over the course of the last 3 months because they're measuring what's called glycated hemoglobin.
Yeah.
It's a way that they can read how sugar has been metabolized over a 3 month average.
Okay. That's cool. Well, okay, so that's really helpful. So we've got a picture of how like what is metabolic syndrome, and we've kind of got clues then that you've shared about what is leading to these issues, right? You shared a little bit about that. So nutritionally then, what are we going to be doing to prevent and even reverse metabolic syndrome? Like what are the nutritional tips that you would provide? I would say maybe 3 to 5 big nutritional tips. I mean, we know that the 7 proven steps is something that people need to be working on, right? So, folks, if you don't have it, the 7 proven steps, those are lifestyle factors that you have a way to change in your life, make better decisions in, and you will be able to improve your health, prevent, and even possibly reverse metabolic syndrome by enacting those 7 proven steps. So go to prospernutrition.com and download those 7 proven steps. But There's more details involved. There's details in that 7 improvement steps, but we can go even deeper here. So, Steve, what are some things that if you have someone come in to a nutrition office and they're dealing with metabolic syndrome, like all these markers maybe are kind of red flagging you that they're having metabolic syndrome type situation. What are you going to have them being to start focusing on initially to start with to see them getting results and preventing or reversing metabolic syndrome?
So if you look at the food chart there on the right-hand side,
Okay.
the only source of animal product is you see fish cut up there. I'm assuming that's fish.
Uh-huh.
You zoom in on that. That sure looks like slices of
Yeah,
fish.
it is. Yep. Uh-huh.
So the fatty acids in fish are known to impact all of the markers.
Okay.
It affects HDL levels, it affects triglycerides, it enhances the membranes for the uptake of glucose, it improves the blood pressure. It's known to lower the platelet levels that affect blood pressure. So there's your winner right there. And our pure omega 3 is the best. Excuse me. How
Yeah.
about this? These?
Uh-oh. Yeah. Yeah. So the omega-3 fatty acids, especially fish oils, which are EPA and DHA.
Welcome back to Houston. Glad I got my vitamin C.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I was just saying that the omega-3 fatty acids, especially fish oils, are going to be the ideal way to get in those fatty acids. The fish oils are the EPA and DHA oils that our body uses for cellular function, like to create the membranes of each cell in the body.
So, metabolizing fat is another thing, and getting quality fish oil is another thing too, because people are often eating fish that are farm raised, that are fed toxic chemicals.
Or they're eating bad fats, right? That
Right.
are breaking down the integrity of the cells too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the cell energy is really an effective tool to have that choline citrate to break down the fats to get them into the cell membrane so
Hmm.
that sugar transports better, insulin signals better, triglycerides are broken down and utilized.
It's
Really
good.
important component. So that's part of our heart bundle as well.
So the fats and then helping the fats be metabolized. So fats are a big part of that. It sounds like is what you're saying. Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
Essential fatty acids are so overlooked by
Okay. Okay. So
individuals. Or
that's a
maybe
great tip.
a lot of people will buy fish oil and maybe they'll take one capsule. I think that's good enough. The average person needs at least four. A person that is small in stature, your size and my size, Jason, you're about 165 pounds or so, right? I'm 150, and we need 4 to 6 a day. Six is ideal for me.
Yeah.
And bigger
Okay.
body size sometimes need even more.
Great.
So
Yeah, so fats, that's a great subject. Intake the good fats more. Fish oils is the best way. You can take it in having more fish, but also supplementing, reducing and stop eating the bad fats. Right. So that's going to be the hydrogenate, all the oils, all the stuff that's in all your processed foods and your dressings and all that stuff, and then help the body metabolize fats is what you're saying. So taking in nutrients that help with that fat metabolism process, that help with the liver function and bile flow. Choline citrate is a supplement that can help with that as well. Maybe the GGOBE foods, right? Garlic, ginger,
definitely.
onion, brassica sprouts, and eggs. Those are sulfur containing foods. They have high amounts of sulfur that help with that bile flow and fat metabolism and the detox processes of the body. So great. That's a great tip. What would you say is another important tip to help with someone preventing or reversing metabolic syndrome?
Well, without getting into too many of the details, what you mentioned is associated with your body's detox pathways.
Ah, mm-hmm.
So the body helps through many processes at the cellular level to detoxify the buildup of LDL or the buildup of triglycerides, which interferes with the utilization of glucose. And so you get better glucose metabolism, and then consequently blood pressure goes down and the body starts burning belly fat.
Okay. So you're saying that the buildup of triglycerides and you're saying cholesterol too?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So
That
the body when detoxification is supported, then it helps break down that excess buildup of those things, of the triglycerides and
exactly. Yeah.
okay.
And so we're always detoxifying, but we're often not supporting efficient detoxification.
So what are some nutrients? What are some foods, some lifestyle choices people can do to help support their detoxification pathways?
Well, the GGOBE, as you mentioned, garlic, ginger,
Right.
onions, broccoli, and eggs. But detoxification, methionine is a sulfur compound that we recommend.
Okay.
Some people will use cysteine. There's sulfur amino acids. Taurine is another one that's oftentimes isolated. But we do make taurine downstream in a Krebs energy cycle and through methylation. So you need B12 for that. Of course, you need a good amount of proteins. And that takes me to the Trinity diet so that people know what they're getting and how many proteins they're getting on a daily
Hmm.
basis. They need to measure that out based on their body size. They can do that with a guideline that's provided in their Trinity diet, how to balance enough protein with their carbohydrates and their fats. All of that has dramatic impact on reversing metabolic syndrome, on reversing heart disease, and so many other health factors. Using a Mediterranean diet, of course, the Trinity diet is nothing more than shining a light on God's diet, the Mediterranean diet, and showing how to balance it.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, so supporting detoxification, that helps break down the buildup of cholesterols and triglycerides. Essentially, what it sounds like is it's like inflammation in the body, right? So I think immune support is probably part of that need as well, right? So the immune system, because immune cells help scavenge and clean up all that junk as well.
We could be on here all morning
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
because oh, it's like the Bible says when one part of the body suffers, the whole body suffers to some degree. Everything's involved. And then the immune system with the signaling agents that control inflammation
Right.
are
That's
big
good.
impacting. So ascorbate's foundational.
Yes.
It is so necessary.
And ascorbate essentially is a form of vitamin C. Obviously, we get some of that in our foods, but our foods are pretty depleted and our bodies use it up so quickly. Supplementing vitamin C is almost an essential thing these days, which is why we have our vitamin C max in that ascorbate vitamin C.
Well, certainly that was the attitude of the Nobel Prize winner that did the most extensive research on it, Linus Pauling. And he used to take 10,000 milligrams a day and worked until he was 94.
10,000, he took 10,000 a day?
10,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily.
Wow. That's, yeah. So 1,000, how much is in, oh, that's 1 teaspoon is 3,000, right? Of,
About 3,100 and
yeah.
some
Of our
change.
of our vitamin C max ascorbate,
Right.
yeah. So that
Teaspoon.
would have been like three and a half teaspoons.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That's awesome. All right. Well, this is good. I mean, this is really helpful. I think, folks, if you really start implementing these few tips, now we can get very specific with a program, a personalized nutrition plan for you if you're dealing with any of these issues that are associated with metabolic syndrome, high visceral fat or belly fat. That the internal fat is the more dangerous than the external. And it's hard to know sometimes. Usually, if your belly is hard, that's usually more of the internal fats. And so we can actually check that a little bit more specifically if you come to our office and do body composition testing. And then elevated cholesterols, but specifically low HDL. That's the main issue with cholesterol. High blood pressure regularly. So we do have high blood pressure on occasion because of certain stressors, and exercise increases blood pressure. But what we're talking about is if you are regularly testing blood pressure and it's regularly high at times where it should be low, that's something that we need to, keep in mind and start doing things to deal with. Elevated glucose. So if you're doing the regular glucose measurement of blood, over 100 on a regular basis is going to be an issue. But testing hemoglobin A1C is a helpful way to get a 3-month trend, and you want 5 or less. And then triglycerides. So if you're having triglycerides that are over 130, ideally you want healthy triglycerides. Healthy triglyceride number is what Steve was saying, which is looking for under 115 whenever you test. So if you're dealing with any of these issues, we can develop a personalized plan for you. And then the tips we talked about today, if you don't have the ability to kind of come into our office, you can get started. You can implement a diet that has better fats that we talked about, supporting detoxification with foods like ginger, garlic, onion, broccoli sprouts, and eggs. You can have a better balanced diet in regard to these macronutrients that Steve talked about, the proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, but making sure you're getting the adequate amounts of proteins and those proteins are being metabolized, as well as the fats. You want to support the fat metabolism too. And then following a diet that's balanced, a Mediterranean diet, if you look that up, it's a really well balanced diet. Now we cover a lot of these tips in the 7 proven steps. But if you want a lot more specific plan, we can do that through Nutrition and Health Center, and we've got the ability to do your tests, help you go through testing, develop a plan, and get it really clearly defined for your needs, supplementing day to day, your specific menu plan based on your body's needs, and it's really helpful to get started with that. But you can get started today. Order some of the supplements we talked about, the choline citrate, the ascorbate. We've got a liver detox, liver protect. These are going to be all the types of nutrients that are going to help. Not to mention, we've got the EPA. It's pure omega-3 is what we call it. It's EPA DHA fish oils. And so those are products that you can get for 10% off if you use the coupon code, and it's today's date, 3/14/24. 3/14/24 show. Show is at the end. So 3/14/24 show, and that's going to get 10% off your order. So you go to prospernutrition.com, put all these products in your cart, go to checkout, and then put that coupon code in the checkout. There's a little window for it for the coupon code. So, Steve, thank you so much. This is really helpful. I think these tips, if these people start acting on these tips, they'll see results quickly. I mean, you've had people see results real quickly. Do you have any testimonies that come to your mind in regard to people
Yeah,
that
I had a lady in last week. She had been a client for a month. She came in with blood pressure of 156 over 96,
hmm,
and her blood pressure was 126 over 76 in 1 month's time. Now, her blood pressure was high, and she was on blood pressure medication. Many people get duped into believing that that really does work, and it doesn't. It just suppresses the energy systems of the body. This woman's got a whole new lot in life. She feels so much better, and it's lifestyle. And it's sad that the cardiologists and the medical doctors that deal with heart disease are not doing what the American Heart Association is recommending,
hmm,
and that are these lifestyle changes that we're discussing. So this is no new rocket science. It's just not
right,
being told to us by the channels that are supposed to be telling us.
right. And
But
it's probably because their investments aren't there, right?
yeah, it's all about the investment, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the sad thing about markets. And I think most people can understand that, right? People are seeing that things are being pushed that aren't necessarily the best for everybody. And so I think that they can understand that that's happening also in the supplement industry, in the health industry, and so the medical industry, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
There, things are being pushed that aren't necessarily the best options for our health. So we want people to prosper and be in health with Prosper Nutrition. And, we want to keep the business going. We sell supplements that are the best quality. We take them. There is a good way to do business, and the good way to do business is essentially promoting what you believe in, what you take for yourself, and what you practice, not necessarily promoting something for the sake of the dollar and increasing the dollar only. That's a part of it that we need to manage, but it's not the motivation. The motivation is results, helping people get better. We want to be healthy. We want you to be healthy. So thank you, Steve, so much for sharing
Welcome.
the
Along
tips.
those lines, before you close, Jason,
Yeah,
the girl's testimony that I just shared with you, that's not some random testimony that happens on occasions. That's the norm. We see that all the time. So we know God heals. We know our bodies are designed to be well and they heal. We just got to find out what's in the way. Let's get it out of the way. And where are we lacking so we can start including more of that of our life? Get the Seven Proven Steps guidebook,
right,
get the Trinity Diet book, and get on board so you can get some truths that aren't being revealed by the typical healthcare provider.
right. Thank you, Steve, so much. Yeah,
My pleasure.
this is something that, I think more and more people are recognizing, and we're here for you. We're not going anywhere. We're a family owned and operated business, and we want to get results for you. So if you guys have any questions or concerns, you can email us info@prospernutrition.com. You can type into the comments of this video as well. We'd be happy to respond to you and help you in any way we can. But thank you all for watching. Join us next week, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on Prosper Nutrition YouTube channel for the Prosper Nutrition Show. Have a great week, and we hope that you prosper and be in health. Take care.